Welcome to our client showcase interview. I'm super
Great.
excited to introduce you to my audience and dive on into your story. So let's take a step all the way back and let's get into like what series of events led you to stumbling upon us and
Right.
then having you say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to join Kim's GroupConvert Ignite program and see what it's about.
Right.
So give us a little bit of your origin story and series of events that led you to deciding to invest in yourself.
So great question, and I'm excited to be here. So the origin story is really, I've had this group for years. It started, so what I do is I help small businesses grow with government contracts. But that was not how my group really started, right? So my group started for a couple other reasons, really to find employees in this space, to help a company I was working for, but it grew kind of organically into business development work for government contracts that I would do on the side, essentially. And it grew somehow really, really fast. Actually, it's been a few years, but there was like a few month period where it really accelerated, right? So right now, as of today, we have 9,300 members, right?
Wow.
And a lot of that growth was because of the tactics I used from your program, right? But I came across you once, probably over a year ago, and I did the free challenge, right? And I paused because I saw the value in it. And I was one of those people. I think you talked at the beginning about how we want to like shift perspectives, right? So I probably have like 3 or 4 or 5 ways like you've really helped me shift a perspective, because I saw the training and I understood. I was like, man, I can really monetize this group. I'm already getting people that I'm working for like on the side, but there was no formula. My content was not yet commoditized, which I think is honestly probably one of the greatest values you gave me, right? But I paused at the first challenge because I was like, I don't want to use my Facebook this way, right? I have a family. We do soccer stuff. My wife has a business. I connect with people from a long time ago on Facebook. I'm like, I don't want to use Facebook just as a business platform. So I paused, and then your ads kept coming back up. I did the challenge again, probably 6 months later. I was like, you know what? I need to do this and find a way to kind of balance the two things, right? I don't have to shut off all the people in my personal life, but there's no problem in like simultaneously doing the business side as well, right? And frankly, that's probably been one of the pieces I've been slower to do, which has probably slowed my growth, but I'm like, frankly, still grappling with this. I think I probably could have done more if I applied like the personal Facebook principles that you taught, and I just haven't done all of them yet. And I've kind of reconciled that in my own mind because it's kind of a phase for me. So that's kind of the origin. I jumped in then, whatever it was, like two months ago or so, I guess it was probably closer to 3 months ago. And I'll pause because there's a lot I could say, but I really started to realize like juggling multiple responsibilities, I had to pick and choose. Michael kind of helped that at the very beginning, right? And Jen, who I worked with, was fantastic in prioritizing what I could do. And like I said, I think I could have done much, much more, but I had to rationalize and be like, you have all these responsibilities to juggle. Let the team help you determine what the most important things are to kind of get your program off the ground, which is what I did. And yeah, so that's where I am today.
Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned, which is super important. You said your group is pretty sizable. It's like 9,000 people now. And you're like, hey, a lot of the tactics that I learned from you led to growth. I do want to dive on into that in just a little bit as well, because this interview is, I'm not only talking to people who are like, oh, you know, is this possible? But also to current clients to say, look, this is a blueprint of success here. And one of the things that can come up is they do one launch and it doesn't, it doesn't pan out. And they're like, this whole system doesn't work. When you enrolled in us after 6 months, after 2 launches. So you came in as you saw it at first, you weren't ready. So you're perfect as an example to say, look, you got to do more than one time. You got to be able to be resilient and consistent so that 6 months later, you're still doing the same thing then you will actually be able to have the people who say yes to themselves come on in. So that, like, I really want to highlight that as well. And then you mentioned Jen was great, and Michael. And the biggest piece to me in terms of investing in myself, because like I do that in a very big way, is getting into an environment where they tell me what to do in what order. The benefit of understanding what to prioritize is a lot of times not as valued, because you buy into a program for the tactics, but really it's buying into the program so that they can identify, hey, you want to get to point B, of everything you have, this is what you should be doing in this sequence. And I want to dive into that as well, like the details of that.
So can I add to that real fast?
Of course. Go ahead.
That is 100% true. And I think that was like a main part of the value of the program, still is, right? For people who feel overwhelmed, right? And this is where, I don't know if it was Jen or your training, your whole team is this way. The people I've exposed to were all this way to me, right? But I kind of had to do a lot of self-reflection, and I teach this to the people I work with too, right? Because the outline is you spell out everything, right? And I still know that if I follow that to a T, I can grow this much more rapidly. For those who are, but to me, honestly, it was knowing I can't do all these things right now because I'm juggling like another full-time job. I'm juggling multiple things, right? So your team helped me decide, okay, that's fine. If you can't, then do these things. At the same time, for the people who struggle, right, and haven't done a second or third challenge yet, right, or just stayed deliberate, you kind of have to know at the same time, like, look, I chose to kind of withhold a little bit, right? So the formula is still there. Picking when you can like open up that slot for yourself to say, this is when I can do it. I guess what I'm saying is it's not necessarily fair to be like, it doesn't work. The program doesn't work. It does, but sometimes, and it's not bad. Like I tell the people I coach, like you kind of have to be kind to yourself too, right? Like I'm not being like, oh, I stunk. I know I did what I can do, right? And there's a time, hopefully, that I'll be able to carve out more to like go back, implement more of those things. An example would be, my program has still grown from the tactics you taught, but I've probably only implemented 10% of them because I just haven't DM'd enough. I haven't been as proactive on my Facebook profile enough. I'm there. I'm in the group every week. I have a few auto things I set up on Sundays to post. I probably haven't commented enough, all those things. I'm not in the other groups enough, but I made it like a rational decision to be like, I also needed to spend time delivering value to my clients. And I will say, I know this isn't it wasn't what we talked about at the beginning, and I don't want to ramble, but I think this is one of the great values of your program. Is I was nervous when I came in that I didn't have like enough of a commodity because I didn't have a course set up. I didn't know how I would deliver the group training to the people who came into my program. I knew I had the skills to help them succeed, but basically I had like knowledge, but I didn't have a commodity. So I found that honestly, there was like an aha moment for me, probably like 2 weeks into the training when Michael like approved or kind of like went through the offer with me. And then I kind of visualized what my program was like. I was like, holy crap. Like I just created a commodity that I could sell. I know I'm confident enough that I can deliver this. Before I was like dabbling, like helping people with proposals. For me, it's like government contract proposals, helping people here and there. And I was like, now I have something to deliver that can scale when it's time to scale. And that to me was like the ultimate, like, it's like you gave me a franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I want to take a moment to soak that in because you guys, and this interview is interactive. So if you guys have questions, let me know. We're just here hanging out and we're diving into not only the benefits and the mindset shifts that happen with Erik in this program, but also we're going to dive into like the tactics as well, because this interview is as much for current clients as it is for potential new ones. And one of the things you said that was really important was you came in and you didn't have an offer. You were like dabbling here and there.
Yep.
And one of the things we did was we sat down with you and we figured out your offer
Yep.
together.
Yep.
And we approved it. And so now you have the confidence to say, look, this is my thing. This is what I can deliver now. And it's a scalable type of model. So I do have people coming up to me and they're like, Kim, I don't have anything. Let me go and shoot like 10,000 videos for my course and when I'm ready, I will come back to you. And I'm just like, you don't need to, you already know so much in your head. You don't.
That's what I said the first time.
So knowing what you know now, do you, for you, were you like, oh, wow, if we were to turn back the hand of time, would you have gotten in maybe a little bit more sooner than waiting 6 months later to say, okay, I'm ready now? And people are ready at different stages,
Right.
But knowing what you know now, would you have maybe like changed your timeline around a little bit?
I would have jumped it up a little sooner. I also would have, which I'm still frankly wrestling with, right? Found a way to carve out a certain time period, if not every day, like every other day, because there's work to do, right? Like, which is good. Like, nobody like who's just like kind of thinking through this process or in the program and then realizing like or struggling and needing to come along doesn't think there's not work to be done, right? But you guys are giving us the steps, but it doesn't happen unless you implement those steps. So yeah, I would have done it sooner. I would have carved out time like every day for the steps. For me right now, I really think I could grow much faster, but I'm wrestling with having the confidence to create more content still for my program, right? So I have videos, I have things I do, I have a formula. That was like the commodity, right? Like you helped me devise like, hey, create your content in a formula that is then kind of proprietary, basically, because like kind of given an acronym. That was like perfect for me, right? But I want to add more value to that. So that's kind of where I am. I'm spending, but I can only have so much time, right? So I'm spending time on that as opposed to like trying to do another challenge or trying to be more proactive with sales. I mean, I do have sales calls every week, but I could probably have more, but I can't because I can only do one of those two things, right? Or scale with a team, but I want the content to be mine. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Yeah.
Yeah. For what I would say, Erik, is there's more bandwidth than you realize, than you know. And for where you're at right now, what I've seen is that people need to see the value of that extra effort, whether that's like an hour or 30 minutes extra that week, to actually do it. And when you're taught in a way where you see like the value of that next step. So for me, I say, no matter what, don't stop selling, no matter what. You always have time to squeeze in recording a video, doing a training here and there. But if you're going to go all in on fixing your training, then block out 2 weeks where all you do is just focus on fixing your training or improving that part.
Right.
And don't do anything else, but give it like that block. And then after that block, okay, you got to continue selling. That's it.
Right.
Like make sure you continue enrolling and never pause that part, because that's the cash flow that will help you inject like everything else for your business. Right. That's how I think about that. But I do want to get into some of the personal kind of milestones and overcoming certain things that you overcame, which is number one, you had a personal Facebook wall and you're like, you know what? I have friends, I have family, people are gonna judge, maybe judge me if I start utilizing this as my business. How did you overcome that when you were coming into the program? What made you change your mind in that?
So honestly, it was, I hope I'm getting the name right because I haven't talked to him in a while. I think it was Michael with the first success call, right?
Mhm.
I told him that. I was like, look, I want to do these things in my group. The group are all people that are in this industry. I'm not so sure how I feel about, friending a whole bunch of people and then putting the business things on my personal side. He said, look, what's your vision for what this could be? And let's just pause with your Facebook question and talk about that. And we talked about kind of how I could see this growing by like another 10,000 in the next year and a half, that I'm basically helping these small businesses grow. I can see an idea where I can scale and maybe help. My vision is to kind of help stay with businesses as a consultant, and then maybe have a company that even helps them sell within the government contracting space. It's a great vision. He's like, how are you going to change people's lives? And he asked all these great follow-up questions, right? How will that change your family's life? And then he stopped and he said, no. He said, will all of that change and success, like for your family, for all these people that you can help, is that worth like the short-term pain of kind of adjusting your Facebook, right? And you don't have to stop doing the things that you want to do, but adding these things as well. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty easy question to say yes to, right? So yeah, that's what it is. And it's not, honestly, the other change in focus, and frankly, I still wrestle with this, right? Because I've like helped, like I've had a few people, like 2 people in the program, 1 person I think coming in this week, so that number should be more.
Yes.
I probably have 3 or 4 other really hot prospects, and I've already helped them, which, by the way, I'll come back to that because that's a mistake, right? But anyway, I could see the difference like I'm making helping people, right? So it's like, yeah, I'm still struggling to kind of balance these 2 things. But it comes back to kind of Michael's words, like, is it worth it to do that? And okay, so you have some jerks on your thing that are like, oh, this is a salesy thing. But honestly, like, you're selling something of value. You have to accept that it's of value in your own mind, right? You know that you're helping people and your ultimate intention is to help people. That helps me, to be honest. Like, you're asking about the personal shift.
Mhm.
The biggest thing for me was that, like, I said, okay, despite the fact that like my degrees in marketing, I've worked in sales before, right? I struggle with sales. I told the folks and I've got tons of value from Larry's sales calls, but I do struggle with it mostly because I like love to be liked, right? But I've like walked back that shift to be like, no, this isn't bad. Like, my real intention, like what I genuinely want to help people like succeed in this space, right? Like, that's what I'm trying to do. So all the things that go along with like getting someone to the sales process, and I've lost people because I haven't followed up as well as what you guys taught. And I'm like, yeah, that person's just going to float away now and maybe come back to me in a year. But what if I would have been better at sales and helped them now, right? Like, they may have more money a year from now than they have now. Yeah, so those are kind of the things that have been the shift for me.
Yeah. So it's realizing the bigger vision and saying yes to that bigger vision and that life you could live and the people you could help, and that's worth the temporary pain
Right.
of the short term. And I know that we hear that, and that's kind of something that we see from people motivational talking all the time, but it isn't until you've invested and you said yes to yourself that you actually you're like, oh, okay, let me go and do that because
Right.
the coach that I paid for told me to.
Right.
What if it was like that? And you're like, okay, let's do that. And there's the other side of the coin, which is, what if you don't? What if you don't enroll that client? Where are they going?
Right.
They might buy something that's like, of not a scam, or they might go and just not be helped. And a year later, they're still in the same place. When you know your offer is of value, you know that what you give them is true and will help them move forward. So The biggest question I ask is like, what if you don't?
Right.
Where do they go? And so that's huge. I love that you touched upon that. Like what if I don't?
Yep.
Yeah. So I do want to dive into some tactics here, Erik, and
Sure.
also members. And you've been in the program for about 3 months. When did you start planning for your training? When did you do your training from the time that you started? I know that you were, one of the biggest kind of objection I get is like, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do this. And I know that you were pretty busy. You have like job and family, just you're busy. So how did you think about attacking it in terms of like carving out time for it? And then when did you launch from when you entered? And also how many people showed up to your training?
Okay.
And of the people who showed up, how many did you speak with and then enroll? Yeah, let's get into some numbers.
So that's a great question. So the specifics of the tactics. So I enrolled, I should have enrolled sooner, but I enrolled at a time that was very busy. And I don't regret that. And I don't regret like not spending more time. I did, but I pushed myself. I was traveling 3 times in those 3 months that I enrolled for, right? But I kind of used it as a forcing function to do the training. So what helped me probably, there were a bunch of things that helped the time, right? I did the training from like 5:30 to 7:30, like every morning for the first like 2 weeks. So by then, like I had my offer within like the first week, right? Set up. And then you have excellent forcing functions built into your program, right? So like, the success call, and then like follow up with like Jen, and then Jen was sending me messages like, hey, these are your tasks. And I was like, I can't do all these things. She's like, okay, took a few away. These are your tasks. Get these done in the next week. Right. So that's kind of how we did it. And all of those things kind of forced me to stay on track, which I mentioned earlier, and I can do that later. I'll get to the like specifics of the numbers, but I made a whole bunch of mistakes, tons of mistakes. Honestly, I probably should have been able to make like $60,000 in my first launch if I had been better at managing my own time, and better implemented the things that you said. So here's what happened, right? So I was going away in March, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, she's like, okay, let's make your challenge date. When did I do the challenge? I think I did it for like the first week in May. Like I said, I did not follow every single thing in the program. If I did, it would have been more successful. But I had, I want to say, like 80 people sign up, right? So my group is really sizable, but it's one of the big challenges at the beginning was like getting it more active, right? So I was very nervous at the beginning because it was like all these people in it, but like you post something and it's like 2 people like it and there's not a lot of interaction. So that was something. If I had been, I did do better than I had done before I was in your program, but if I had implemented everything, I think it would have been much stronger, right? So I think I had like 90 people sign up, and I had about 12 people each day attend the live training, which was good because frankly, like the biggest fear, and I forget who it was, if it was Jen or somebody helped me with this, I was like, should I do this? What if people people are signing up, but what if they don't actually come? I made some mistakes. I did it during the day. I probably should have done it at night. I did it at lunchtime because that's what worked for me. But nighttime, I was like, I think I'm better in the day. Like I get tired very easily at night. I wake up super early. I was like, let me do it at lunch. That was a mistake. I should have done it at night for me. And for my group, I think I would have gotten a better result. So 10 to 12 showed up each day. And then calls. I had 12 calls. So there were people that didn't show up that still were watching the recordings, right? And there's a whole bunch of like benefits that came numerically from doing the training, even though if no one had signed up for my program from that result, it would have been worth it anyway. Number one, I had my email list grew and it continued to grow while I kind of left that open. I had the email sequence going. All of those people, and I've heard you say a bunch of times, like the money is in the follow-up, right? there was someone who I actually am talking with today at 1:30 that wants to sign up that was in that first training, right? I ended up helping him with the proposal, and I was talking to him about like the program and becoming into it. And the reason I kind of like danced along a little longer with him was because he's like absolutely the ideal client. He already has a growing business. So he's not afraid to invest. It was kind of like just time matching up. So that those benefits might accrue like 2 months later, right? From your training, even if no one signs up initially. And then the second metric that's not like kind of non-quantifiable, right? So I had 2 sales from that live training, right? Of $6,500 each, right? They took a while. I had one person, and I don't even know if you guys might have encouraged me if I had sought more help not to let this person. So one person signed a contract, and then was like, I can't do this. I had things fall through, and I'm like, I don't want to work with someone like that. So that person dropped off. So I had 3, and then I had 2, and now I have 1 who I think is going to be like today or tomorrow, and then someone else who says like next month. All of those were still from that initial training because I haven't done a second launch. I traveled again for 2 weeks in June, which is fine, right? So I'm trying to be like kind to myself. But my email list now is from the group just continuing to grow. I literally, when I downloaded, I get Group Launch and GroupConvert mixed, but the one that grabs my emails from my group, right? When I started that, I had 0 email addresses, not a single one. Well, maybe like 15 from people that I had worked with casually, right, in the past. And since April instituting that, I think I checked last night, I have like 450 email addresses. Yeah. So I think like 1,200 people have joined my group. That's what's in my spreadsheet since starting with you guys. But then, like a third of them don't give their email addresses. I don't know if I should be not allowing them to come into the group. I usually do allow them to come in anyway. But yeah, like 1 out of every 3 gives me their email address. So it's basically like 400 and some email addresses I have.
Nice.
So those are some. Yep.
Yeah, something that I want to point out, you said that, hey, I should have done it at night versus the day. We've seen clients just go and launch whenever, and it's totally fine. It's you think that, oh man, it's the wrong time. It's more like just stay consistent. Just stay consistent because we push people to the replay. And, for you could have given up. You could have been like, oh, there's only 12 people here, screw this. But you didn't. You're like, you know what? I'm still going to go and launch this. And so, and out of that, 2 people signed up for a 5-day challenge, right? Like in 5 days, you were able to get 2 clients from that. And it's still an asset that now you're still signing up people from the first training, but you didn't do a second one. And so now you have this asset that actually converts for you. And it's so important that, some people, they make $13,000 in a month, right? Or not even several months, right? And you were able to achieve that in this short window because of this asset that now you have and you can continue to have for the rest of your life. And so, so often I do have clients who freak out and I'm like, hold on, just chill out. Even if all you did was get a few clients in the door, it still is a good starting point for you. So don't give up, just because 12 people showed up, don't give up. So what made you not give up? What made you go, I'm just going to go through with this. If like I enrolled no one, it'll still be worth this time.
Yep.
Like what?
Yep.
Can you share with me?
Absolutely. Because it was actually like a specific moment that I had to decide because I don't know if there's a lot of people that are like this, right? That are just kind of like afraid, like, is it not worth it? What if it doesn't happen? Listen, and I actually thought like, there's a good chance, like either no one's going to come or no one's going to sign up. So basically you said, what made me decide to go through with it? Like, this is what, and I've said this a couple times already, like, this is what made me be like, okay, this is a process. First of all, everyone is great and saying like, you kind of have to like fail forward, right? Like failure is not like, oh, well, like that's it. It didn't work. I quit, right? There's so much learning is happening. Like, so that's what cued me in. Going along this process, I was kind of like, look, I'm learning so much going through this, like even putting this together for me. Like I got to the point where like, I kind of like, it sounds kind of cliche to say this, but like, you kind of have to like let go of the results. Like just say you're going to do what the training says. And the worst case scenario is like you flop and it's not a big deal. Guess what? You're this much further, right, than you were the last time, right? So what made me realize was like, look, if that happens, like honestly, I played out this whole thing in my head to be like super honest with you, right? I was like, if this happens and you have like shitty videos, sorry, and you're terrible on camera and like saying all these stupid things, here's the thing that you have, right? You have something when you're done, which is like a total flop failure, and be like, but I can go back and be like, was there like 30% like goodness there that I can like build on? Maybe there was. And then the thing that like really hit me was like, okay, if I do this and I fail, the next time will be easier, right? And honestly, the other thing was very early in the process, what I said earlier, like I fully grasped, like, and I can't stress this enough, because to me, it was like, before your program, I was like, okay, I had skills, I had some knowledge that I can help people, but I didn't really have anything to sell. So what I realized like very early on was that like, even if this doesn't work, this is refining like the widget that you're selling, right? Because before there was no widget. And maybe this is a really shitty widget that I'm going to sell, but I have a shitty widget to build off of to get better next time, right? That maybe it, you know, you have to shape this thing or do something different. And honestly, like I've said all along, like it wasn't great. I honestly, $13,000 is excellent, but and my goal was 4 sales. I had 2 sales. I had 3 sales, but one, you know, fell off. And there was no reason I couldn't have made my goal if I followed 70% of what you guys taught, but I only did probably 40%. Right. So, and I've like kind of replayed and know what it was. Some of it was time, which is okay. But I know that I have something that like I can really, really refine, improve, and get better. But the process is the same, right? So you, like you said, what the order, the sequencing of things is there. What you're teaching is the right process. And that won't change. And when I get that refined and am able myself to implement more fully, then I could see how that would automate, those numbers would change, right?
Yeah. And speaking of like email addresses, like when you told me you probably consume 10% of everything that we have, that's very much likely the truth, maybe even
Right.
5%, because we have a whole with email. Now that you have these emails, are you running email campaigns? Are you doing that intentionally, deliberately? The first part is just getting emails and
Right.
getting that up. But then the reason why our program, in terms of like the bigger package, the year long, is because we help you figure out the secondary things that will amplify the primary. And one of the things you mentioned is, hey, I got one person and then that person like bailed. What we've discovered is that if you have a robust, stronger onboarding sequence where they feel like served right away, that's what we did with Clifford. That took his $20,000 months to $40,000 additional the next month. So he made $60,000 in 1 month, because it was like, hey, let's make sure your onboarding is tight, so that when they come in, sure, they're like, oh, you know, I got into like an accident, car accident, or I got to pay some other bills. They're
Right.
going to say that because maybe when they come in, they don't feel that like robust, you know, like, okay, this is worth it, I'm taken care of. And
Right.
while you have those components in your own program, it's like those little tweaks will enable you to keep more of the people that just enroll with you, as well. So that's like this, I call it second order consequences. Like the first is the thing that you're selling, and then all these secondary things. got to make sure they get tightened up, and it doesn't require like hours and hours of your time. For Clifford, it was just one zap. So it was like, oh, this one zap allows me to do that, right? So awesome. You increase your email. And what was really important for you is, hey, now you have an asset. Now you have something to sell. Now you have your own IP that you can tweak. And you can see that if you just tweak a few things, you would be able to get there, to hit your numbers, which for you was 4 clients. You got 2 out of 4. And 4 clients for you is $26,000, right? $26,000.
Yep.
In terms of 4 clients. All right. And this is not where it ends. So I'm excited for what's to come ahead for you, Erik. One of the questions I want to dive into, oh, shoot. Give me 1 second. I have a, what is it? Great. I should have told my team to not have my delivery come in at this time, but give me 1 second. Okay. Just gonna grab the delivery. 369. Gracias. Oh, that's great. Okay, I'm back.
That's right. We got the nice view while you were gone. It's great.
I want to dive into a few other things, which is in terms of your pricing, pricing it at that price. And then let's see, let's dive more into tactics, growth tactics. Like what was in the program that contributed to you growing your group even more? Was it like posting? Was it like you mentioned that you followed some of our tactics? So let's dive into the details of that.
So a lot of it was just like posting regularly, right? The initial piece too, I can't remember where it is in the training, right? But it talked about like identifying. So, and this is kind of my example of like, I could have done this better, but what I did like helped me grow, right? So because I was juggling, I was like, okay, I took this piece of the training, I went out and did this, and then I like had to move on to like creating content or doing videos or getting ready for the challenge. But like one specific example would be the piece where we made the list of groups that are kind of tangential to our topic, right? That alone was like awesome, right? Because I knew they existed, but I'm like, did I ever, honest? And it's not even a lot of time. Like it probably took me 15 minutes, right? 20 minutes, like do the right searches on Facebook, find the groups, join the groups, create an Excel sheet with a list of those groups, right? So I did spend time initially, like, for that, like this 1 week period where I was like going into the groups, commenting as like the training said, like trying to engage people in conversations. I wasn't like spamming a group. I wasn't like saying, hey, join my group. I was trying to add value, right? Like, so for me, an example would be, and I don't know if this is valuable to like an example of what folks who are watching this might know. Like, so I help small businesses, right, with government contracting, but that's a lot of different types of small businesses. So it could be like a janitorial business. It could be a construction business, landscaping. So I would join groups, right, that would be like general landscaping businesses or general cleaning businesses, or and then I would like find the right way to comment. So I would also try to add some marketing value, right? Like one of the things I'm doing with folks coming in, that it's kind of a long line, right, for people to get government contracts. So I'm trying to have some component, which actually this is just something I've developed the last few weeks to help them with their local marketing when they already have an existing business, right? One of the things I hope to do is like I haven't done this yet because I don't feel confident enough technically, is to actually have the program that's within your program where I forget what the dollar value is, but for a certain dollar value, you can get the group, is it GroupConvert? The go high level piece, right? Where people would be underneath me. So my intention is to find businesses like the gentleman I'm talking to today to be like, hey, let me help you implement this, because the government piece is going to be long, right? It might be 6 months, it might be 9 months until we get you a government contract. But I want to get you a return on your investment in my program so I can then add this to your existing business, right? So I would kind of go into these groups, mention like kind of different tools they can use or things they could say. And then my intention was kind of to engage in the conversation. Hey, have you ever considered going after government contracts? Then if they're looking at my profile, they see some of my profile things. Or I will, if I had a DM session with them, I'd be like, hey, here's my other group. There was so one of your trainings was like, be conversational. Like, I think a lot of your training was like, don't think you're going to DM someone and be like, hey, I have this program to sell you. Right. So I took that to heart. And that's not really my personality. So that fit me perfectly anyway. Like, I need to get better at the like, hey, let's sell this now. Right. That's kind of my struggle. But that was kind of a natural progression for me to be like, hey, here's our group. Hey, if you have questions, this is kind of where we're at. Like, I'd love to help you. And I was very good. The other piece of the training was when you set up. So I've had a bunch of strategy sessions with people who actually didn't go through my challenge, right? But they've been in my group. They've seen like that I'm active helping small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Have been good. And then the other piece was of your training that I took. So that was kind of to help develop the group, right? And active in all those groups. And then the strategy session piece was I did tell everyone, I'm like, hey, I'm happy to help you with where you're at in your business for the first part of the strategy session. If you cut a deal with me and let me explain my program to you, it's not a fit for everyone, but I really want to tell you what the value is and how it could transform your business. So that was a piece of the training that was like incredibly valuable. That's not at all a hard conversation to have once you have it. And most people are like, yeah, I'm going to get some free advice from this person. So I don't mind them telling me about their program. Right. So yeah, that's kind of one of the pieces I took from it.
Oh, I love that. And it enabled you to not feel like super salesy. It enabled you to have these conversations that led to a natural invitation to come and work with you. One of the biggest things that, kind of objection is, hey, Kim, the thing that I've been doing, which is running ads, so book a call, it's like immediate salesy. And I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for an alternative to this because that is a costly journey, and it depends on multiple people to be good, like a setter, closer, and so it requires so many components for that to work. And I say, hey, there's another way to go about this that's more nurturing. And it's a very much do you see type of logic. Like if they see that you can provide value and they see that you have the solution, you don't need to have a lot of testimonials. That's another thing. You started kind of from scratch without even an offer.
I didn't have a single testimonial.
Let's repeat that again.
Nope, not one.
No.
And I was really nervous about that, right? Like, I did use, and I don't think this is a stretch. Like I talked to Jen and I thought it through. Like I did use examples in my training of people I helped, right? Which I could have done it without those. I don't think that like sold me, right? Like, so the last couple of years, there were people I helped with proposals. So I gave examples of the types of businesses they were. And I was like, this was so-and-so from this place. But no, I did not have a single testimonial because this was brand new to me. Like this group just existed, right? I went through your training once and I was like, nope, I don't want to do that on Facebook. And then I went through a second time and bought the program, right? So I was like, I need to do this. But I didn't have a single testimonial because there wasn't a program. There wasn't an offer. There wasn't anything. So that's why I'm like, man, I wish I had more. And I wish I had, I'm going to do my next challenge at the end of this month, but I'm like, or probably early next month, but I'm like, I can't be upset that I have $13,000 that I didn't have before because I have a commodity, I have lessons learned, and I have a list, and I do have testimonials now. I even have testimonials that I snapped, and I don't even think I got this from your training because I know there's a whole system to do it. So I've like hybrid this, so I know I'm supposed to have these. But you have the right system that I did not implement, right? So, but I've like taken snapshots of comments people have made. So there was a time like I have a page with the training on it, which is again not the system that you've taught, but I'm like I need to get like hybrid something, right? And I have people who's like, oh, this training's great. This has really helped my company. So just like snapshot that, boom. So now for the next time, I will have a few testimonials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I started with none.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such a big thing to realize, that you can do this without a string of testimonials, because people start at the very beginning. They start at zero.
Right.
And running ads to, let's say, a video sales letter, which is what's really taught to like get clients.
Right.
It's really testimonial dependent. It's really results dependent, that one video can sell your entire program, versus them being in a group, being nurtured, seeing a series of videos, and then saying yes to the life that they could live, to the business that they could have, and then getting your guidance as this next step to that journey. So you mentioned something about, hey, in your system, I saw that there was a way for me to get clients faster results if I implemented this thing. So that's another thing I want to touch upon. Sometimes we go into a program and we're like, well, I'm in this program for this. And then you start looking around and you're like, wait, I can actually implement that for my clients, because you realize that the government contract timeline can be a little bit longer, and you're like, well, they could benefit from this too, which is what, with our program, the reason why we have like a short one, but we also have a year long, is because we help you develop that out, and that actually increases your reoccurring income, because they come in, they subscribe to your white label version, and then they get benefits from that, and then they continue to stay with you. So it's a very sticky component of like what we offer. Mike is like, what's up, Kim? What's up, Mike? We have like random people saying hi. Not random. I know Mike. Mike's cool. So like that's another thing called the fastest path to cash method, like being able to get them that ROI a little bit quicker. And I love that you identified that as a secondary solution to your main core one. And so I do want to get into, okay, so you had a group, you weren't collecting emails from it. Now you have an email list. You didn't have an offer before. Then you have an offer, and you start enrolling clients, and you're planning to do your next challenge maybe end of this month or beginning of next month, to go at it again and just add more components that might like give you more results the next time. I want to get into, so before we wrap up, because it's almost an hour, and I love that our conversations just go by so fast, because it flows very well. One of the 3 questions I ask, it's kind of rapid fire question, which is time to from the time that you start implementing things to the time of you felt like your first win. What is that time? Like, say, hey, you're Erik. My name is Erik. Time to first win is X time amount. Time to return on your investment is the second one, and then how much did you make? So just rapid fire those 3 answers. When you do your interviews, your client interviews, Erik, you should also include this, because it works as a great clip.
So time to first win. Okay, I'll back up, right? So my name is Erik. Time to first win was 2 weeks. My name is Erik. Time to first return on investment was 2 months. And I forget the last one. I'm sorry.
How much, the amount that you made from your investment?
My name is Erik, and I made $13,000 from the program initially in the first 3 months.
Yay, let's go, Erik. And it took you how long from the time that you decided, hey, I want to do a launch, to launching, saying, okay, I'm going to launch now? Was it like 2 weeks? Did you schedule your launch 3 months out? I know this is on your own timeline.
Yep. I was a little slower than most people. I scheduled it took me 4 weeks to launch.
All right. 4 weeks to launch. That's great. Yeah. Typically, we have our clients launch within the first month. But, we go at your own timeline. We didn't force you to do something you didn't want to do. and we gave you support along the way. So the next question is, how did you feel about the level of support, and who did you talk to? I know you mentioned Larry, you mentioned Michael, you mentioned Jen. What was important about number one, how do you feel about our support? Like, what was the support that you actually got?
The support was fantastic. And I actually, again, I think I could have done better if I leveraged the support more. Some of it was like timing of things that I couldn't get on calls, but you guys were fantastic. I can't say enough about Jen, who was my coach, who I think like went far above and beyond whatever your structure is to like have her. I mean, we were like literally messaging for like late in the middle of the night. Like she would do anything. She was amazing. She kept me on task. I got support, technical support, which was a high learning curve for me. It still is, frankly. Some of the things in the Go High Level program, right? But I called into I feel awful. I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman who's there. I think it's like 12 o'clock on Thursdays.
Michael Moraes?
Michael, RJ also was like fantastic. And then while I'm driving, sometimes I have a government client that I see like twice a week that I drive 2 hours each way. So I'll listen to Larry's recorded calls, right? So I haven't gotten support from him yet. And frankly, like all of my failure has been because I haven't listened to him. Right. So like I have like, and there's other people who struggle like with sales, like this is a very different process. And you kind of have to reconcile like, look, that one sales call is the time to close, right? It's not like, hey, I don't want to like, this is different. I'm just going to kind of have a relationship, because you'll find yourself on call. This happened to me, right? Like once every 2 weeks. And then it's like, you're moving this down the road. Can that be successful? Maybe. But honestly, it's like totally unscalable, right? Like you can't do that if you end up, let's just say you get to the point where you want 5 new people a month. You can't have 20 prospects that you're just like going down this road with, right? So Larry's sales calls have helped me kind of transform and ask better questions to get my prospects to the decision point. But that's a work in progress for me. But the support has been fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned names, and you're like, hey, it's this and that, and Jen went above and beyond. She was like messaging you at night.
Right.
Because one of our core values is we're not the restaurant that at closing time someone comes in and like, hey, can you serve me? And we're like, no, sorry, it's closed. We're the restaurant that will be like, oh, come on in, and here's this home cooked food. And so it's more like that feel. It's what embodies our value as a company, because we are helping people change their life, and it's much rather like, I love that Jen embodies our company values with you. The last few questions I have is in terms of if someone's what do you think in terms of niche? Because your niche is very particular. It is government contracts, helping entrepreneurs win government contracts. So right. Specific. Do you believe that what we teach would fit other niches? Like, what have you seen being in the community and in terms of absorbing the information? Because one of the questions I get asked all the time is, Kim, I do this particular thing and it's so specific. Have you done that exact thing for your client before? And sometimes my answer is like, no, like I've never done that niche, but they feel like I have to do that exact same thing in order for them to feel comfortable coming in and getting help. Like, what would you say in response to that, given what
I've seen that like before, right? And a lot of people who are even in something that's helping someone make money. So like, I know there's people who say like, oh, my skill doesn't help people make money, so it's harder to sell. I would say, to back up for a second, like your program is so applicable across the board for anyone, honestly, that's teaching, right? If you're teaching someone something new or delivering something of value that like changes their life, whether it has to do with money or relationships or health, whatever it is, right? Like, you are giving people the tools to turn that into a commodity. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a commodity that someone gets a like return on investment for, right? Like it could be, frankly, I'm kind of like jealous of those other people, because one of my stumbling blocks was that I'm not really like crazy passionate about government contracts, but I've had like 20 years in it. So I actually have a PhD in leadership and studied motivation. So one of the things I do, I teach a class at Penn State, right, on motivation. And I'd much rather like, and in fact, there's part of me that was like, okay, do this, make some money, maybe you kind of like change your lifestyle, and then maybe you can start a separate group that's more on like your passion, that's more like motivational or like spiritual kind of like side. But I could totally see how that, because here's what you're going to be doing, right? You're creating that commodity. You're going to get people's email addresses. You're going to be you're teaching them how to develop a relationship with someone. And most importantly, you're teaching them how to deliver value to someone, right? So when they deliver value, they will then in turn be able to ask for payment for that value. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So it doesn't matter if that value is monetary or in a relationship or in their health or well-being, right? Anyway, they have that, like you're teaching them how to package that, present it in like an ethical, kind, like good, valuable way, and then have an exchange, right? So yeah, I think it's applicable across the board.
I love that, Eric. Yeah, I love your answer. You're so articulate and you know how to answer questions really well. So I'm, super grateful for that.
Great.
And so a couple last questions is, if someone's on the fence and they're a good fit to join the program, and good fit could mean a lot of things, I have people who are like you, who are like, hey, I don't have any offer whatsoever. I don't even have a program. Can this work for me? Okay, I'm going to try it. So good fit for us is it's very malleable, right? Like there's people who have absolutely nothing coming in and still succeeding. And then people who come in with a program and then we help them automate things and they still succeed as well. But if someone's a good fit and they're on the fence for joining Ignite, what would you say? And then after that, where can they find you in terms of getting help from you? What website they can join? One of the biggest things that I love to do is shout out you and where people can find you. Yeah.
So if someone's on the fence to join, I would say, it's tough being in the online space, right? Because people never know if they can trust someone, right? Because there are, there's a few scams out there. There's other packages that seem like expensive. Here's the deal. Like I would say this in all honesty, because I have to say it to myself at times, right? If you're on the fence and you think you have something that you can do, whether it's like coaching or what a program is or being an entrepreneur, and you have a group that you think can lead you to monetization, then this is the program for you, because you have to be really self-reflective, right? Like you're giving everyone the tools, but you're very clear up front, like the tools only work if you use the tools, right? Like, so I would encourage someone who's on the fence, like if you're ready and you have that window to put the work in, and it's not like crazy, it's not going to be 50 hours a week, right? Like it's just, we say this over time, like I tell my clients this, right? Like it's consistency over like quantity of time, right? Like if you do it every day, or even if it just, okay, you say I can't do it every day, every other day this week, you're going to do 4 days this week, you're going to do this much time. If you absorb the training and apply it, there's literally like no one to blame, right? So I can't think of a better investment if you're ready to turn your skill set into a monetized commodity than your program, right? The second thing is me. Yeah, that's a great question. So connect on Facebook. My website is Gov for anyone who's possibly has a small business that could compete for government contracts, right? Which is honestly almost any small business. I'm helping someone now that's actually a digital marketer. Like in fact, I kind of hope she ends up working for my program when I scale like you, which would be like my longer term vision. But she's like does digital marketing literally for the government, right? So my funnel piece is govbizhq.com, which is govbizhq.com, right? And then it's Erik Saar on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, same. So, yeah.
All right, govbizhq.com is where you can go to find.
No E though.
Oh, no E.
Just GOVBIZ. Yeah.
GovBizHQ.com.
I need to learn how to use this feature on StreamYard, which I'm sure is in your training because it's really cool. Right.
Yeah, we have a how-to tech.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, govbizhq.com. Go and, it's for any business. I personally know, I actually started my journey working my very first and only job ever. I stayed in it for a year after I graduated from college, was a government contract company.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I was an inside sales rep. The company only had 2 salespeople, and they were doing 16 million a year. And they sold government contracts to we were working with the CIA, the IRS,
Oh, wow.
and we were putting in bids for
Right.
those contracts and winning the bids and getting several points from the whole thing. And it would be multi-million-dollar contracts.
Oh, wow.
So very, very
awesome.
cool world.
Wow.
And I do know that it's huge. It's a huge industry, and so many entrepreneurs and small business owners would benefit from your service, like every single one of them. So I'm really excited to shout you out, Erik.
Awesome.
This will not be the last time we sync up, because I like to continue seeing where you're at in your journey after you do your second, third, fourth launch. And then inside our year-long program, we help you automate that and then help you create one singular asset that you can run ads to for when you have that cash flow to pour into ads, because that will get you consistent book calls. That's your next stage for you, stage 2. And then stage 3 would be amplifying the secondary stuff, which is the emails, campaigns, tightening things up, onboarding, backend stuff. So, all right, cool. I have to hop off. So guys, Erik, thank you so much for showing up. What I'm going to do next is put you back into the green room. You can click X out. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to put you back there. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I put Erik in the green room. Erik, you can click X to go about your day. And that was Erik Saar. He helps entrepreneurs secure government contracts to grow out their business, which I know is a very, very useful service. So useful. So with that said, guys, if you are thinking about monetizing from your community, being able to, you've been running a bunch of ads and you just don't see another way out. You try to revitalize your dead group and it's just not going well. Or you don't even have a group, but you want to start a group for your own community, then what we provide is a great alternative for you to be able to get consistent clients, jumping on warmer calls for you to close. And we work with you to create that asset that now can live in your group and consistently convert for you. So GroupConvert, ignite.com/application if you want to apply for it.